It is the end of 2023 and it's time for the top 5 PulseShift news stories of the year. We've been monitoring the progression of the reset of this 12,000 year geomagnetic cycle, and this year we have seen a lot of updates. Let's get started. Number 5. Over the last few years, it has been apparent that Chinese scientists are publishing on this topic as much as anyone, and now speculation that the Chinese government is full eyes open on the changing magnetic field of Earth is apparent with the launch of the Macau Science 1. A mission dedicated to studying the ongoing magnetic pole shift, geomagnetic excursion, and the satellite swarm is exactly what is needed. The bad news, they're not talking. It's been months and we're still waiting for any data, but if they are concerned, we should be too. Number 4. If the 12,000-year cycles are bricks in the foundation of the catastrophe story, the 6,000-year half-cycle mini-excursion events are the mortar. While paleointensity had suggested the 6,000-year event does exist, this year we saw the first official declaration and then a subsequent confirmation that the magnetic minimum 6,000 years ago was indeed a mini geomagnetic excursion. It lines up with the volcanic uptick and tropical hydroclimate event at that time. It's the interglacial version of the Heinrich event. And 6,000 years later, here we are. It's time for the full cycle, and we are seeing the changes ongoing now. Number 3. It was one of the big hits at the American Geophysical Union Conference, at the largest geophysical meeting of the year where these magnetic events on Earth were confirmed to be extinction-level events. The shining story was the confirmation that the field weakens while the magnetic poles shoot to the equator. This was one of the most questioned aspects of the story, but no more. It is a 90-degree shift during the excursions. We'd like to thank the world's largest geophysical meeting for dropping that little gem. Number 2. Mark Zuckerberg, the prepper. Let's rewatch the video. By now, many of you have heard the news. Mark Zuckerberg has joined the list of major movers in the prepping world. He got the memo to launch, but unfortunately for him, he is flying in the wrong direction. Before we discuss his choice of Hawaii, let's go over the overall perspective of the prepping among the powerful players in the world by rewatching our video on this subject from 2 years ago. Then, we'll discuss Zuck and what's happening with him.
For the most part, you are all here for the same reason. You have something in common. Despite various anxieties over changes on the Earth or risks from the Sun, and despite your hopes ranging from sustained calm to let's just get it over already, you all recognize and are curious to know more about and follow these changes as they relate to our way of life and our interaction with the planet, the sun, the galaxy, and beyond. It turns out, there are some people you've probably heard of who have something in common with you. Most of the time when I discuss individuals of varying celebrity, I'm making fun of something they've said, and when I'm being more serious, the chorus rises in the comment section that I should avoid politics or culture. Please. If you haven't been under a rock the last few years, you know this isn't politics. It's Agenda 21, the 30-30 plan, the New Green Deal, and the taking control of the world. This is our lives. When it's Bill Maher repeatedly having the stones to call out his own side for being hypocritical bad faith frauds, it's time to look in the mirror. When this lady implies that the false veil of public propaganda messaging is real and then stands her ground, crushing her opposition, I get butterflies. Are you seeing what I'm seeing? Today, I don't want to focus on the geopolitical revolt ongoing among literally everyone with a brain. I want to discuss the ones who have the prepping mind, eyes open mentality that brings you back here for the series, daily updates, and documentaries. Hopefully, we all recall the disaster plan of the world's richest man, Jeff Bezos, hollowing out a mountain right next to his launch facility in West Texas. The Sierra Diablos probably are going to fare quite well in the upcoming cyclical disaster, but if they don't, he can go up or down. I don't buy this tunnel stuff any more than the thousands of you who have publicly speculated about why Musk is so darn interested in digging down and going up. This is his, remember. If you didn't know that the rich are prepping, hope you enjoyed the ignorant bliss. Many are more ready and plan to stay steady than most people think about, and the number of celebrities with disaster prep is growing too. Zooey Deschanel has it ingrained in her, you can tell. George Clooney and his elite lawyer wife have more than fancy paintings in their residence, and the same goes for Lady Gaga. And Post Malone, free shout out for Spencer Confidential on Netflix. Yeah, I watch stuff too. If you survive a catastrophe near Rhonda's residence, you should expect her to meet you in the aftermath and then pound your face in. But today, we're on to the Kardashians, and the last couple days I have been keeping up. Some of you may have heard about her recent construction problems. Her neighbor basically claims she is building a bunker or vault underground. She says it's basically just an underground wellness area. If you saw her interest in survival bunkers a few months ago and it's hard for you to now buy that this isn't exactly the very same thing, then we have something in common. I just want to remind everyone that while the best possible evidence is the observational science and the ability to predict what happens next, when you see the celebrities turning on the powers that be, and when you see so many billionaires and celebrities taking actions that fall relatively in line with what you would do if you had their money and knew the science, the appropriate reaction is to come back to that mirror, look yourself in the eyes, and know you are on point. It's time to keep our heads up, eyes open, and to use these signals of all kinds to inform our attention and action rather than a fear reaction. I'll see you in the morning for the daily update on all those secret little things you have in common with billionaires, celebrities, and secretive government organizations. Be safe, everyone.
And we are back to today. And of course, we are adding Zuck to the list. I've seen many of the comments correctly questioning his choice of Hawaii. If you have been around a while here, you know Hawaii may be one of the worst possible choices. It's up there with the middle of New York City, South Florida, and LA in terms of bad decisions. Not only do we expect pretty much all the volcanoes to go nuts on the Hawaiian Islands, but the tsunamis are going to pound the area pretty badly. So, what is he thinking? Well, the first thing you need to know is he sits not at the highest table of secret power on Earth. Folks, none of the names or organizations you see here represent the top of the power food chain in the world. None of the names we get to hear about sit there. The real powerful people go silently, under the radar, and without press or spotlight. And when all this goes down, they want to sit far above the remaining survivors without their more modestly powerful middlemen that impart their will on the rest of us here in the world. All those celebrities you hear about building in Hawaii, buying homes by the coast, or in New Zealand, they have been given only part of the story. Mark Zuckerberg is no different. What the vast majority of these stories tell us is that they are part of a big club that gets clued in on major happenings on the horizon, but it doesn't mean they get the full story. In the case of Zuck, it's likely he was told about the chaos and the climate shift, so he picked a warm place away from everyone and isolated. And based on the half of the story he got, it's not a terrible choice. The problem is that the geomagnetic excursion, magnetic pole shift, great solar blast, and crustal shift are coming too. When it comes to Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk, they do seem to have the meat of the story. Kim Kardashian building her bunker in LA? Not so much. Where our focus needs to be is not on the minutia or the details of the people we hear about in the news, but rather the fact that they are all of the same disaster mindset. Even if they aren't all getting the full story, they're getting part of the story, and that story is a piece of the one we've been telling you for years. One of the smartest people I know likes to say, don't listen to what they're telling you, just watch what they do. Well, I'm watching, and it seems that they know what we know, at least a part of it. Take solace. I'd rather be poor in the Rocky Mountains than a billionaire in Hawaii or in New Zealand during this event. I'd rather be in a shack in the West Virginian mountains than a penthouse in New York City. When even new money monkey Mark Zuckerdoodle gets in on the game, you better be getting ready for yourself and your family as well. Be safe, everyone. And that brings us to number one, the top story, the scary one, the one that has progressed much faster than even I would have ever imagined. The Aurora record shatters into a million pieces as the sun begins dominating the top of the sky. Let's watch that one too. Folks, it's not stopping. The auroral displays are completely out of control, and if we weren't several years into clown world, I'd be shocked the media isn't discussing it. We mentioned it this morning. The 2003 Halloween solar superstorm produced low-latitude aurora down to the southernmost states. This has happened before, but not often, and it takes major X-class solar flares, extreme speed CME plasma striking Earth, and top-level geomagnetic storms. I went ahead and looked up the times that aurora were seen in the southernmost states, and here is a brief list going back to the Carrington event of 1859. The top lines are ones that happened in the same solar cycle. They certainly seem to be getting more common as time goes on, even as light pollution makes them harder and harder to see. This fact alone is a signal that Earth's aurora are getting more extreme, and with the fact that solar activity is not breaking any records, it confronts normalcy bias and reminds us this is exactly what we are expecting as Earth's magnetic field weakens in the ongoing excursion and magnetic pole shift. From 2018 to 2020, we said over and over, we'll be needing to closely monitor the aurora in the upcoming solar cycle to see if the trend continues. It certainly has. Just this year, we've had several events. In September, a solar storm which was not major, which was not triggered by an extreme speed shock wave, and which had no X-class solar flare, caused the auroral activity to be visible from Arizona. The same thing happened in August. Once again, no X-class flare, the solar wind was moderately strong at best, and the geomagnetic storm didn't even hit KP7, but aurora were visible in Arizona nonetheless. The storm in April was fairly strong, but still not at the top-level disruption, still no mega CME or X-class flares, and yet the aurora were visible in Mexico and southern Texas. It happened in March as well. Again, from a solar event that was only moderately strong, but which produced a fairly strong geomagnetic storm, still not top level, yet aurora were visible from New Mexico, and a few reports even came in from Florida. Folks, there has never been any year where far southern aurora were seen as many times as we've just had. This is a record, and the year's not over yet. What's worse is that the geomagnetic storms have not hit the top-level disruption, and the solar activity that triggered them was moderately strong at best. We've said it before, let's say it again. The Earth is becoming more and more vulnerable to solar activity. I would never deny the significance of the ongoing economic issues, potential for World War III, loss of freedom due to governments and the World Economic Forum pulling their Agenda 2030 nonsense, but folks, despite the evidence being right in our faces, the media is completely ignoring what is happening to the Earth. The magnetic pole shift and geomagnetic excursion are progressing, and in the coming years, we're going to lose all modern technology and the foundations of modern civilization. Doesn't get much worse than this, especially since other real global issues seem to be overshadowing it completely in the public forum. We've seen this evidence in the magnetic field itself, the polar motion, the ionosphere, and the atmosphere. Alas, now an auroral record has fallen. The sun isn't doing anything crazy, so it once again shows us another sign that Earth's geospheres are in big trouble, and us along with them. Let's say goodbye to 2023, and as we welcome 2024, where it is clear that man-made issues of economic strife, war, political lunacy, and cultural gaslighting are coming. But let's not forget what it's distracting many from realizing, that at some point in the next decade or two, the Earth and the Sun are going to get sick of our squabbles and assert their dominance over the condition and usher in a new age of Earth. Whenever you're watching, I'll see you in the morning for the Daily Show. Be safe, everyone.